Welcome in everyone to, let's say, a preview or more opinion to Once Human, more the Once Human closed beta 3, which is currently in full swing and attracting thousands of players. Players are currently able to witness what progress Starry Studio has made during the development time, and what we can expect from the game at least at this point. So a warning from me, this game is all but finished. It is a beta test of course, however I take it with the old school development theory. I assume the game is more or less complete and polishing is what is needed, right? I mean, a beta should be feature complete, right? Obviously, this is not the case in game development and we will see later on why. So again, beta content. Things can still change until the final release and things might be terrible broken. As always, let's start at the beginning. What is Once Human about? And if you just want to hear my opinion on the game and not the brief summary, check the chapters below of the video to skip forward. Though I will try to not spoil too much of the story as you might want to experience it yourself. The world is in an apocalyptic state and got infested with an alien substance or creature called stardust. Human, animals and plant life all mutated and became a danger for the planet, like this giant 5G tower. Maybe I should be worried about these radios in my neighborhood. Or this dude, we call him Mr. Lamb. Only certain kinds of humans, meta-humans, are able to survive in this harsh new world. And obviously, we are one of these meta-humans. Once Human calls itself a supernatural open-world survival game, and it does follow the set title. You slowly wake up in a laboratory of Rosetta Technologies. Some scientists seem to have you captured, however you manage to escape, meeting this supernatural bird and this girl leading you into the world outside. From there on, it is your objective to explore, build and survive. You can find notes explaining some of the story. You have V, the bird, explaining you bits and pieces of your surrounding. NPCs help you survive and reveal the story bit by bit. I'm having a great start here. The intro sequence and the escape from the laboratory is very interesting. While not very action-packed, still it is the science fiction story that caught me. So take your time here, collect items, read through notes as they give valuable background on what has happened. Also, the initial setup of your camp, learning the basics of crafting and the first fight were fairly easy but still kept me playing. The controls are very intuitive. When jumping into the so-called real world, though, we are left a little with open questions. We are being told a lot, for example who's Mitsuko, the girl who's leading us, also a little background on this meta bird. So we have plenty of NPCs dialogues explaining who, what and where, but nothing really sticks and this is the main problem I have with the story. Why? Just a second. The game loop is basically expand your base, gather resources, go on missions and events, level up, unlock new tech and repeat. A typical MMO gameplay loop, and if you think the side of your base gets boring, you can always move it, which is a nice feature. Fairly basic survival crafting, and when it comes to this game genre, the game needs to deliver more around all of this. Once Human does in fact do that, at least it tries. Once Human is in the base a good game, but struggles in the beta, and while players are handing in plenty of feedback, I hope the studio will pick up this feedback and work their way forward to the release. But what is the problem exactly? Let's start with the story again. As explained earlier, the story is being mainly explained by NPCs. Yes, you have a few cutscenes, but much develops through talking to characters, and while they have interesting things to tell, the character animation and also the setup of voice tracks break immersion very quickly. For example, very early on, we already have NPCs who are missing basic mimics and mouth animations. Your own character is also more or less dead, or makes exaggerated and unnatural body movements to emphasize on the conversation. That the characters look like plastic when it is raining doesn't make it really better. Sure, this could be polished out over the next couple of months, and I hope it will, though you will experience this already very early on in the game, which already makes me worry. The early game experience is the most important part when playing a game for the very first time. We will have a lot of players jumping into the beta and making up their mind if they will continue playing after the release. It is like meeting a person for the first time. You will always remember this first moment, and most likely there won't be a second one if you fail. On occasions, voice tracks seem to be entirely missing in the middle of a conversation, or some feel like they are being a placeholder created using TTS. I hope this will be added later onto the game. All of this makes an integral part of the game feel rather empty, and you start to unwillingly just click through the dialogues until you get the marker on the map where you have to head next. I call this grinding, and I just dislike this type of gameplay style. Building in the second tutorial phase needs to be polished a lot. I needed some patience to experiment as I had no clue why I cannot place down my furnace. The message I got was no unlock build skin. I could imagine people not having the patience to figure out what is wrong. By the way, if you are experiencing this message, just add another foundation to your base and place the furnace on that one. So audio also needs to be fixed. I have no clue why I'm all of a sudden having loud rock music while just chilling and building my base. I guess some internal event approaching enemy or whatever is being triggered falsely. Translations are partially missing, but I'm okay with that, as the game is most likely not feature complete. Translation has not been completed either. In some ways, the game does actually surprise me though. Design of the bigger monstrosities is interesting to say the least. For example, you have this infested giant walking bus. You can also find other giant creatures, and you should beware when approaching them. The variety of the building material, monsters, guns, transports, and companions called deviants are great though. They have put some real thought into it, and players are building all kind of shenanigans with their given freedom, from a stairway to heaven to a very good looking house. The game is being split up into PvP and PvE servers. It's okay, though I'd rather prefer other methods to distinguish between PvP and PvE, like opting into PvP, having certain PvP areas or limits. This would invite PvE players to play some PvP at some point without having to create a new character on another server. The game has plenty of bugs, but the studio is working on them and releasing patches for the beta almost every day. I want to give credit for this, actually using a beta to gather feedback and fix the game, and not just to have players given some early access, something you do not see that often nowadays. You see, it is very difficult to talk about a game that is still in development and the beta phase. I want to be fair, but also point out the things that surprise me. Overall, the game is beautiful and looks good so far. However, you do experience and feel some limitations. The game is cross-platform and will also be available for mobile. Depending on the engine, of course, you will need to cut here and there. Biggest worry though is the gameplay loop. At the moment, I cannot say if this is engaging enough to keep players going for a very long time. Starry Studio needs to do it right. If games are not engaging enough from the start, players will be gone for good. At least most of them. Okay, don't quote me on this, but from what I know, the game should be free to play in the end, probably financing itself by additions such as battle passes and cosmetics. The studio has declared earlier there won't be any pay to win element as long as they are in control. Release is planned for somewhere in Q4 2024, so let's see if that will be an actual time frame for the release or if they need more time to work on all the things that pop up during the beta now. So what do you think? Drop a comment. And that's all from me today. Thanks for watching and take care.